And we're back with my favorite day of the week, the live. So today, I had a great question from one of our viewers, Golden and Coons, and they asked, Lynette, what's your prediction on the used and brand new car market? Well, I can tell you if we're looking at history, I think they're all going to get a whole lot cheaper. The question is, will you be able to afford it? And if you have this, you want a Lamborghini, what do you want? Okay, because that's what we see happening. And we've seen it with other, I guess, aspirational assets like Rolexes and things like that, as the crypto millionaires got lots of easy money. But when we went into a crypto winter, what happened? They sold them back and that market dropped. So we saw that back in the Depression too. But let's just jump into the slides because I really want to get to the Q&A. However, I took a look at the auto market, and what you can see is that prices on everything, parts, parking, repairs, and insurance in particular, has gone through the roof, while at the same time, the average earnings have shockingly not kept pace. But I don't think that's what you were really asking anyway. It's part of owning a car, though, to know, because what we're seeing with the insurance companies is when it starts to cost them money, they just say, nope, we're not insuring you anymore. So that piece is important. But I took a look at the used vehicle index, and you can see that it peaked over here at the in January, or actually a little bit before 2022. So all that free money that they pumped into the system drove the prices in nominal terms up. But then it's been dropping pretty precipitously ever since. I do think that will continue because I think that we've already entered in a recession, that there is not going to be a soft landing, and that a lot of this is done on debt, which, as we know, when interest rates rise, the market value of that debt declines. But the opposite is true too. So a lot is dependent upon this Fed pivot to make it look one way or the other, and then at the end, I'm going to show you the reality. So if they do start dropping rates, that vehicle debt that the banks are holding or other entities are holding, the market value will go up. But overall, I think that the used car market, the prices there, will continue to go down. All they're doing with this pivot and the shifting of the interest rates, and it's going to be interesting to see where we go from here to the end of the year. Many think we're going to see a 100 basis point move, and I think that that's probably accurate, but it's because they're trying to, let's see, well, that's deflation. What you're seeing on the used car charts, that's deflationary. There's only one way, only one, to fight deflation, and that's with more inflation and more money printing and more debt creation. That just makes things appear a certain way. Now, electric cars, which they're trying to promote and push, those prices are actually going up, interestingly enough, although it seems like they're not getting adoption fast enough. So I thought that was actually really interesting as well. But what you need to see is reality, because everything is done in nominal terms. And as soon as you hear the word nominal or notional, what you need to just automatically know is that you're not going to see real value. And it's the value of the dollar going down that pushes the price, that nominal price, up. But I said, well, I'm kind of curious. Let's go back to the beginning of this scheme, which was 1913 when they installed the Federal Reserve. At that time, the average price of a car, here's just a little 20 horsepower Ford was $850. And with spot gold, which was a controlled price back then at $20.67, it took 41.12 ounces to buy that average car. Okay, well, how about today? Let's take a look. You can see this is a new vehicle price, and you can see how much that's gone up because of the inflation that was intentionally created by all of this money printing. This is intentional. This is pure manipulation. Aren't you tired of being manipulated? But how many times can you be manipulated? How many times do you believe the lies? Here's the truth. Here we are in 2024, and the average, I didn't change that. The average price of a new vehicle is no longer $850. It's $48,000. See, these are live. It's $48,401, and that is also off the peak. So we have prices in both used and new cars dropping, and as some say, like a stone. But with spot gold on Friday's close at $2,503.34, the cost in terms of ounces of gold, instead of 41 ounces, it's 19 ounces. So can you see how sound money actually protects your purchasing power? So even if these prices go up in nominal terms, though quite frankly, what is most likely to happen, because this is the historic norm, is that people are going to have to raise money to maintain and sustain a standard of living if they have not prepared for this outcome. This is why I'm doing all of this work, because if you are prepared, it's not going to bother you. You're going to be able to buy whatever car you want at a much less, even nominal price, because you're holding something that holds its purchasing power. And that's the real key. No matter what you're doing, that's the real key. You want to be in a position to hold your purchasing power so that when opportunities present, whether it's with cars or it's with real estate or other income-producing assets. I will be doing a video on some of the options in income-producing assets. Bear with me. I'm working as hard as I possibly can to get all of this stuff done. I'm telling you, I could work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and still not really be able to vocalize everything that I want to vocalize. But you know, in all of this, what you need to understand is that sound money will protect you when fiat money puts you in just the right place to fail. So now I will take questions.
I will say real quickly, we didn't have as many questions as we normally do, and I'm guessing it's because our live was going, your talking points have gone a little bit shorter than we, usually you go for about 20, 30 minutes of talking. Before we answer questions, I'm just saying, everyone out there, please go ahead and drop your questions in the chat box. I will have her answer this for you. But let's get started first.
And I should tell you before this, because we're doing the Peak Prosperity event next week on the 13th to the 15th. And so I hope that, if you're watching and you're going to this event, that you come up and you let me know. And I'm also going to have Morgan there, my farm manager and also community developer. So she's going to be there too, as will Adam. So you're going to get to meet some of these people and some of the voices that, are part of Zang Enterprises and all working on your behalf. So what we're going to do next week is a preview, and Adam will capture all of your questions, and then I'll answer them the following week.
Correct. Yeah, we're going to do a premiere next week, so it's not going to be a live, but you'll see it as a live. They'll have a chat box, and then I will be in the chat with you guys, making sure your questions are here, taken down, so we can answer them on the following live. Okay, guys?
Okie dokie. So Okay. JP Haynes asks, what are your thoughts on taking a loan from a whole life insurance policy to buy gold at today's prices? I actually think that is a fabulous idea, to be perfectly honest with you, because whole life insurance policies, they're kind of expensive for what they do. You're borrowing against yourself. You never have to pay it back. So I actually think that is a fabulous idea. But I'm also going to tell you got to do what you're comfortable with doing. At one point, my brother-in-law was in the business, and so I too had a whole life policy until I learned more about insurance. As a stockbroker, I had to have all those licenses, and then it was kind of like, this is not such a great idea. But you do whatever you're comfortable with doing. I don't own a whole life policy anymore. And Valeria B asks, the cost of cars has gone up so much nobody can afford them. So they're fixing their cars, so mechanics are raking it in. They've tripled and quadrupled their prices. Yes, but they've also had to pay more money because that is primarily, it is parts, and we can go back to that first chart that I showed you, where you're looking at an increase in parts and repairs have gone up, as well as the insurance, the cost, because insurance companies aren't paying what they once were. So that is absolutely an accurate statement, and you can see it even going back to the other two charts. Look at this zooming up, right? When they print, that's the thing. And that's what we have to understand, because the only answer that these central banks have is money printing. And they do that by regulating the rate and speed of inflation through raising or lowering interest rates. If they want to tighten the markets, then they put the interest rates up so fewer entities and fewer people borrow and spend. And if they want to create that inflation, they lower the interest rates. Fewer people, so more people borrow and spend. But all of this money that they've created in the system since 2008 with the zero interest rate policy, the ZIRP, that money's floating around in the system. So much as they've talked about how they've been tightening with it, the economy with the interest rate, and my goodness, isn't the economy doing so well? It still has all of those inflated dollars floating around with it. That's why you're seeing the prices spike like they did. Because what did they do? They created more free money back in 2020, and actually it started in 2019 when the money markets froze. September, right? Did you remember that? No, because they covered it over as quickly as possible. Just what happened a month ago with the markets imploding. And at that point, I called everybody Saturday or Sunday night, and I said, make sure you have a full tank of gas in the car. And, I had a lot of people say, well, are you going to your bug out location? Well, I did this past weekend, but not to bug out. Well, yeah, I guess I did go to bug out, but not because there was a crisis unfolding. Because what I said, and what I will continue to say, there are crises that are constantly unrolling, and we don't know which one is going to tip the scales, but it's when the public realizes what's happening, that's when we've got the biggest problem. As long as they can cover it up by dropping interest rates, printing money, doing whatever their QE, QT, QE, blah, 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 that whole alphabet soup stuff, as long as they can do it to hide the deterioration in the underlying markets, they're going to do it. But yeah, let's see that chart again on the used. Look at this upward trajectory. It's the same thing in real estate. We can see it over and over again. And look at the EVs, right? Up. So you're absolutely right. Oops, that's not the one that I wanted. Okay. Oh, yeah, it is, because I wanted the new car prices. I'm just going to have to do this a little bit faster. So look at this. Yeah. Prices keep going up. Is that really because these cars are worth that much more money? It's because this garbage is worth that much less. And it's worth that much less because our government and our central banks like to spend your money, your tax dollars. And it's the only tool they have. It's it. And that's what the problem is. And that's also why we've seen a systemic shift in the bond market, right? That 40-year trend has been broken. You think there's no consequences? You think there's going to be a soft landing? There's not going to be a soft landing, but there will be bargains as long as you can hold your purchasing power. There will be bargains, and we can have the wealth shift our way. What a flipping concept. Become your own central banker. Okay, sorry, I kind of. But Sayray316 asks, do you foresee a Jim Rickards ICE 9 event before or after November 5th? After. And, you know, I've learned a lot. I really do like Jim Rickards. I've learned a lot from his work. I think he is a very brilliant man. He has been part of these war games with currency war games. He knows this, right? He knows the value of sound money. So, yeah, after.
ICE 9, can you explain that? What is that? What are we talking about there?
ICE 9.
ICE 9?
ICE 9, well, I haven't looked at that in particular, but he knows. Jim Rickards is talking about what happens to the currency in currency wars.
Got it.
And he's talking about when the currencies get reset, right? So, you know, I don't think there's anything that's going to happen if it's preventable before the election. That's really what the question is. It before the election or after the election? Sure. And whatever's going to happen is more likely to happen after the election. Let's see. Feels like we have 1929, 2000, and 2008 about to hit all at once. And you can total them all up. Yes, because this is going to look more like 29 than it does 2008 because they're out of tools. And it really is just that simple. So, and it's going to be huge. And the reason why I say it's more like 29 is because that was the shift, that was the end part, the big crisis that they needed, which took us into a depression back in 33 to take our power away. I was just talking about this, and so you'll see it when they put it out on an update with Zimbabwe, right? And when you're looking at what happens to a currency when it dies, and what happens is that the public loses confidence. And 100% of the time, they need to use gold to regain that confidence. But the difference between what Zimbabwe is doing and what happened in the beginning of this experiment was that in the beginning of the experiment, when the public had the power, if you did not like what the government was doing, you walked in with this $20 gold piece and you walked out with a $20 bill. You walked in with or vice versa. You walked in with this, you walked out with this. And what that did was it created restrictions around how much debt the government could grow. But in Zimbabwe, it's not convertible. And so they're not getting as easily adoption of it because it's not convertible. So they're going to try, and some people will fall in line with it, but we've got to stand strong. And we've got to say, we want to have a seat at the table in this new iteration. And if I have a seat at the table on your behalf, on all of our children's behalf, I'm going to fight for whatever currency we have to be backed by gold and convertible into it, because the public needs to have the power back. We need to take the power back. Okie dokie. And Watt Haley asks, love your car price and gold ounce comparison, 1913 to 24, anyone can understand that. And I'm gonna really incorporate that a whole lot more into all the work that I'm doing, because that is such a good point, and it makes it black and white. I mean, it's real simple. And I don't really care, I didn't do 1971, which is when we went off the gold standard, because this is the beginning of it, and that's how much purchasing power they've stolen from you. But it also showed you how much you held if you held gold. So, the Skint Stacker says, are you planning on coming to the UK? First of all, I was fortunate enough to get to go to college in Roxton. I don't know if you know where that is, but it's outside of Banbury, which is outside of Cambridge in the UK. And I've been back a couple times since, so I really do love it. And I'm not sure exactly when, but I was talking to Mario and Echo, and you guys, many of you know him. And so I don't have that on my calendar yet, but I probably will, because I really want to go back. I really want to go back. So I'll let you know. I'll keep you posted. We're still working on our website. We're going to have a page there to show you all of the events. Right now, I think on our agenda, we've got the one Peak Prosperity in September, and then we'll be in Australia November 30th. And then we'll be back in Vancouver in January. I'm not sure about what those dates are, but we'll be back in Vancouver. And then I'll be in Germany in November sometime, but I don't have those exact dates yet. So that's what I have on the calendar. Is there anything else that we have on the calendar?
Not booked just yet, no.
Not booked just yet. So I'll keep you posted. And I don't know, maybe we'll kind of do something on our way to Germany. I mean, it's close enough. So maybe we will. And Matt Peterson asks, would you like to hear Lynette's opinion of massive B of A sell-off by Warren Buffett and also massive silver short position by B of A? Shocking! There you go. Shocking. Not. I think Warren, his daddy was a congressman who really fought hard to have gold, have currencies convertible into gold again. So, sometimes when you listen to Warren, then I know that his daddy is rolling over in the grave. But I think that really what's happening with Warren is he knows that the banking system is deep doo-doo. So while they're already sitting on a ton of cash, and I can't prove how much gold he's sitting on, I knew he grew up in a household that believed very, very strongly in gold, probably owned a lot of gold, because of course, if you had pre-33 gold coins, they were classified as rare and unusual, and they are, because there's just a finite amount of them. And I'm pretty sure Warren has a whole bunch of gold. He just doesn't want you to know. And the fact that Bank of America is shorting, which means selling silver they do not have, which you can easily do in any contract. You can do that with anything. But it's quite dangerous if they lose control, because when they sell something they don't have, that also means to close out that position, they have to buy it back. Now, I know it doesn't sound like it should be legal, but you sell something to push down the price, and then you go in and you buy it at that lower price, and look at that profit that you made. But it's risky, because if enough traders decided to take delivery of that silver or of the gold when they short it, then they're going to have to claim a force majeure, which is meaning, and they've done this actually within the last few years when gold was so short anyway. And remember, or not gold, silver. Silver gets used up inside of the system. So it's actually quantity-wise a diminishing asset. But it's used in every single sector of the global economy. as is gold, a little bit more in the manufacturing with the silver. But these are both sound money. This kind of straddles the fence a little bit more. This is what people look at to determine, well, what's happening with the currency. This is what people look at to determine, well, what's happening with the economy. So they have to manipulate both of these prices to keep you dumb. So yeah, there you go. Yeah, B of A. A duck on quack. That's good. Are you aware property taxes are adjusted according to local government deficits? Uh-huh. And if you look back historically, how do local governments and federal governments generate their income? Through taxes. And so I've done studies, and I've actually even published some. I don't know that I've published any here because we've only been open since the end of January. But I've done studies on taxes, property taxes, and what happens through inflation, through deflation, through default, through depressions, etc. And during the Depression, you could have had your house paid off, but if you couldn't pay your property taxes, you lost that house. Gold helps you maintain your ability to always pay those property taxes, even as the governments raise them, right? Gold keeps pace with that over a block of time. And short term, it's easy to manipulate like we were just talking about. But then also you're seeing it in the physical only market. So it's actually, I don't know. Where is my rooster? I don't know. Anyway, it's buried in here somewhere. But that's what I like the fractional gold coins for, is for your property taxes. That is part of the sound money strategy because 100% that's accurate. Governments are about protecting themselves, not about protecting you, right? So yeah, you want to get your sound money strategy executed as quickly as possible. Property taxes are one of the things that jeopardize your shelter, which is part of the mantra. You gotta have it. And Frank Battalato says, and if I butcher anybody's name, please forgive me. When do you believe the paper, gold, and silver markets will end? When confidence is lost. That's when they will end. As long as the public looks at Wall Street and says, oh, well, that's the true value of gold, that's the true value of silver, as long as the public believes it by buying ETFs, by buying those options, by buying those intangible assets so they think they have exposure to gold when in reality they don't. It's just a contract and it runs all sorts of counterparty risk. So it really all hinges on public confidence. And I can't see that top part. Oops. Oh, now he's going to make me dizzy. Tell me when you're done because he's going like this. Okay, thank you. Excuse me. Say Ray 316. Thoughts on gold, silver, IRA accounts. I rolled over a Fidelity account into Novel Gold IRA and it was easy, costing me less in quarterly fees, and it's vaulted in Texas. Is this safe? Well, I have to tell you that everybody needs to do what they are comfortable doing. But if you don't hold it, you don't own it, and the only thing that you can do inside of an IRA is bullion. And I'm sorry to say this, but the reality is that any depository is not going to say, if the government chooses to do an overt confiscation, oh no, we're protecting our clients. We're not giving you the gold that's in there. So I don't personally own one at Zang Enterprises. If you want one, we can certainly do that for you. Because you have to do what you are comfortable with, frankly, regardless of what I say. All I can do is tell you what I'm doing for myself and what I'm comfortable with, because I've been doing this on some level since I was 4 years old, and I'm almost 70. So I have a lot of confidence in what I'm speaking about because I've been studying it on some level my entire life. So yes, yeah, they'll make that real easy for you. It's the cost of convenience. Decide what you wanted to do. I had a SEP IRA. I didn't convert it into a gold IRA, though I could have even done that for myself. I took possession of the wealth in there, paid my taxes, paid whatever penalties, and this is what I converted it to. So I have a really nice retirement plan, but it is invisible and it's not in something that is likely to be confiscated should there be an overt confiscation. And Gina Young says, if I buy gold backs, what denomination do you recommend? Well, I can honestly see a place for gold backs in the very first part of the strategy. And the nice part about it is, don't hold me to the quantity of gold that's held in there, but because gold can be pounded super thin, I think it's like 1/1000th of an ounce, right? So they have different denominations. You'll probably want more toward the lower end of the denominations than the larger end of the denomination. They are fairly expensive. The artwork is absolutely gorgeous. We probably will be carrying them at some point. We don't do that yet, but I do see a space for them in the strategy. So if you talk to one of our strategy specialists, you can just call that link or click on that QR code or whatever and set up a time. They'll probably, I meet with them all the time and I get their texts all the time. So I can help them walk you through that as part of your strategy, even though we aren't dealing in them yet at this point. But I do see a place for them. I do.
I have a follow-up question on
Sure.
the gold backs. Can you tell me a little bit about the value of those and like the value over time? We know what gold does over time, right? Is it the same thing for the gold backs because
there's physical
Yes,
gold
yes.
in them? So there would be, but they haven't been out long enough to see what's going to happen with that premium.
Oh,
And a
okay.
lot of that premium that's built in there is because this is an expensive process. The artwork is phenomenally gorgeous, but then they layer the gold inside of the bill itself. So I can't really answer that question because enough time has not really. And maybe somebody out there, maybe we can have somebody on there that has a lot more experience with gold backs. I mean,
Yeah.
I've known about them for a number of years. I even own a little bit of it because very wonderful people have sent them to me. So I have looked at it. I do have a level of understanding about that, but it's not something I work with all the time. So it's harder for me to answer that question. And let's see, Danielle Casey asks, I'm buying a fifth wheel travel trailer tomorrow. Should I sell a little gold or should I make a loan? If you can make a fixed rate loan, make a loan, okay? Because then part of the strategy, again, talk to us. We'll give you guidance on it. But part of that strategy will be to repay that loan with dollars that have virtually no value. So you would end up paying a whole lot less for that fifth wheel. A variable rate loan, not good. Fixed rate loan, okay. And even at this moment, if you had to do a variable rate loan as the Fed pivots and lowers rates, we might want to take a look at that, but only if you can at some point convert it into a fixed rate loan. I really would not do any variable rate debt because when we go into hyperinflation, which I think has already started, you're never getting out of debt. It's just not going to happen. Okay, and Tony Rico asks, hi Lynette, what is the most undervalued AU to buy now? Actually, it's probably the higher quality levels of them, but it kind of depends. Anywhere in that area, he says mint state 61, 62, 63, pre-33 gold, $20 coins, or is there another better value to buy AU, which is gold? And I'm going to go back to, we start with your goals. What are you trying to accomplish? And then that's what we determine is the right kind of silver and the right kind of gold for each one of these goals. So all of the physical market, all of it, both gold and silver, is severely undervalued. Some, like bullion, should they do an overt confiscation, that's at jeopardy. So I go, this is a comparison between the two. This is a pre-33, just a raw gold coin, which is what I like to use for my emergency money. So if I needed to raise some cash, like right now to pay salaries or whatever it is that I need to do with it, this goes first, okay? And that's maybe even a better way to ask the question, or maybe it's just additional information, because the strategy is built on layers. And those layers are based on what you as an individual are trying to accomplish and what your circumstances are. So that's the best way that I can really answer it, because it's the truest way. It's how I built my portfolio. Not like, well, what's the biggest bargain? They're all huge bargains, which is why you can feel comfortable for paying the premiums, because, you have a choice here. You can buy this is going to be closer to spot, or you can buy this is just a common date, mint state 64, right? And this will cost you a little bit more than this, but both of them are so far below the true fundamental value of just this. Doesn't matter. It's part of the strategy. It's part of the strategy to eat up those IRA fees, those taxes that you have to pay, and any penalties and any, we're talking about the real estate market. I studied currency since 1987 and currency life cycles. And the whole sound money strategy is based upon those repeatable patterns, and therefore what is the next most likely outcome. So that's why identifying those patterns and then positioning into this, but you got to set your goals first. It's not the tail wagging the dog, it's the dog wagging the tail. And low blood pressure. No. Yeah. You said we didn't have many questions. Okay, good. I love the questions.
And I appreciate that greatly. Right. We love questions.
Yes, we love
got some
questions.
more.
That's why this is my favorite time of the day. Yeah. And I hope, and this is also why I love to go and do live events, because even though I'm on stage and I'll get some questions there, I'm really in with you guys as part of the community, answering all of your questions directly. So Adam's going to be taking lots and lots of footage on this event to share with you guys all the way through.
Oh, yeah. And real quickly on that, David Weissman, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, asked, how about a phone number to call in on a live show? That is something we will work towards.
We've talked about it.
We are working towards that. We're working on it.
We are working on it. And another thing that we're working on, which I don't know exactly when we're going to be doing this, but I'm going to tell you, we are going to be doing this, because in our new office building, there is an amphitheater that seats 150 people. And I want to do these with a live audience. What a concept. So if you live anywhere near Phoenix, we'll let you know way ahead of time before we do that. But if you live anywhere near Phoenix, or you're going to be traveling to Phoenix, we'll have tickets available. Come in and join the live show live, which is even better than a phone call. And Rosie says, hello, Lynette. Hi, Rosie. What's your take on taking out a small loan for a vehicle to gain credit, specifically for a young adult? Said young adult has cash saved and plans on paying off early. Thoughts? Again, fixed rate debt, as long as you can afford the payment, right? Fixed rate debt falls into exactly the same strategy that the government uses, which is to repay that debt with, in this country anyway, dollars that have less and less and less value. So I think that that is a very good idea as long as you balance that debt with the right kind of gold and the right amount of gold, which we can calculate out. We're not saying that, like, we can't guarantee you anything, but if something's happened 100% of the time and we're doing the same thing, I'm kind of thinking the most likely outcome is we're going to get the same results. So actually, that is really, Rosie, all part of the strategy. And let me just say to everybody that's watching, I really appreciate you showing up on these lives. These lives are, it's seriously, for me, the most important part of my week. Now, Fridays is another really important day because that's when I load my brain a lot. But being able to answer your questions in live time is everything to me. So I really want to thank you, all of you, a lot. I will always show up and do the work. That's my guarantee to you. It's the only guarantee I can give you. And YouTuber asks, ma'am, am I in a better position to keep working in USA if I am on a work visa and my salary is unlikely to rise in the next 10 years? I don't know where you're from. I mean, I don't know really how to answer that. What are your prospects here? Can you accumulate gold and silver? Can you become part of a larger community here than you can wherever it is that you moved from? That's the question that you have to answer for yourself. But becoming part of a community everywhere in the world is so critical. It's just some places are more natural in their community development than other places. And I can't even really answer that to, you know, so it's really hard for me to answer that question because I don't know where you came from. But I would say that you need to base it on, are you in a better position to accumulate gold and silver and sound money here and create that local community around you? And then because you do have a foot elsewhere in the world, can you help us make wherever it is that you're from part of our global community? Can we work together to make that happen? That's what I would say to that. Alan Greenspan asks, God, I really wish I could talk to the real Alan Greenspan. My mom always used to say, don't you think he's smarter than you, Lynn? Don't you think he's smarter? And if he believed the garbage he was putting out, I'd say, nope, don't think he's smarter than I am. But I don't think he believed it. I think he was just doing his job. Anyway, what are your thoughts on Operation Sandman? Let me look at that and get back to you. Will you write that down for me, please? I think I have looked at that, but I don't remember it off the top of my head. I'm very sorry, but I'll get back to you on that one. And Johnny Moore asks, what would you buy, gold, silver, or platinum? Well, platinum is an industrial metal, and this is a currency life cycle issue. So for me, I am at this time, I mean, I do have platinum, but I don't buy it for a currency life cycle issue. Okay, so for me, I'm all in really on gold and silver because this is the primary currency metal, this is the secondary currency metal, and this is a currency life cycle issue. And Felix the Cat 69, I used to like Felix the Cat, so I remember that. Probably dating myself, and probably so are you to have Felix the Cat there. Felix the Cat. That was it. Didn't it go something like that? Now we're going to have to find that song. I can get pre-33 gold coins for right about spot right now. What has happened to the premiums? Well, it depends on the pre-33s, you know. And again, this is a pre-33. It's just a raw coin. And this is what I like to use for my just for my emergency gold, rather than this, which is a 2024 Gold Eagle. So premiums will shrink or they will expand based upon demand and supply. It is a true supply and demand market. Yay. And while we have begun the next gold rush, we're still in the really, really early stages of it. So I expect those premiums to expand ginormously, but that's what creates that bargain. And I feel so strongly that you always want to have the lion's share of your wealth in an undervalued asset that's in a long-term positive trend, and the least amount of your wealth in an overvalued asset or instrument that's in a long-term negative trend. So one of the things that you have to identify, maybe I should do like a little short video on this. Would you write this down for me, please, Arthur? Is on how you identify those. Because it's actually pretty simple. You just look at the lows. And as long as you see higher and higher lows like you do in the gold market, then you know you're in a long-term positive trend, and at some point you will get higher highs. And conversely, the real trend in the fiat money markets is not the stock market going up because they printed so many more dollars. It's in the purchasing power of those dollars. So in a negative trend, what you see are lower and lower highs. Because if you keep getting lower and lower highs, I guarantee you will end up with lower lows. So I'll do just a quick little video that you guys will be able to refer back to. And I think that I can probably have done for next week, because that won't take me that long to do. Don't look. Okay, I'm going to close my eyes. All right. Okay. Just kidding. Oh, is this deja vu? Deja vu? Okay. Is platinum wire still used industrially? Yes. Can you avoid a paper trail trip when buying and selling gold?
I think he means trail.
Yeah, I think you mean trail. Not really. I mean, there may be some places, but let me tell you, we have to follow the legal letter of the law. But only on that one. We have to follow the legal letter of the law, whether it's the buy side or the sell side. So the difference is that, yes, there's going to be a paper trail when you buy it, but if you buy it in this form, I mean, this is what I give for wedding presents. This is what, and this is what I give when somebody has a baby. So it's physical, and I give it away. So does it really matter? Now on the sell side, actually, to be perfectly honest with you, with American Eagles, there's no reporting on the selling of it. There are in foreign gold coins, there are limits. So once you breach that limits, then the sell side is reportable. This is not reportable. It's not reportable on the buy side. It's not reportable on the sell side. We stay to the legal letter of the law, but I'm not going to say there isn't a paper trail, because we have to track. We don't have to track anything, but we have to record the transaction. We don't have to report it. And once it's in your possession, even though you have it, it's invisible to everything else. That's why they don't like you to have it. And low blood pressure says, I sold 25 kilos to pay variable debt. Good idea. To be honest with you, that variable rate debt can kill you. So if you cannot pay it off with earnings or fiat money, then I don't think it's horrendous that you made that choice. I mean, I'd want to look at lots more data to determine, but variable rate debt can kill you in hyperinflation. So, and Michael T. Sr. asked, didn't know that bullion can be tracked. How can they track cash purchases of metals? Well, that is really good, and it depends on what the bullion is. So, like I said, this is an American Eagle, and we don't have to report the buy or the sell of it. Other foreign coins, that varies, right? So you can find that out. But cash purchases, if you go above, a certain level, then that is reportable. They make it so onerous. I'm telling you, things are changing so rapidly right now. They make it so onerous that there may be some gold companies, and probably more in the smaller mom and pops, that would be willing to take cash, but it's almost a red flag if you're using cash to do it. And so what you want to do is what keeps you under the radar the most. But, how can they track it? Well, at some point they want to put barcodes, and they just want you to hold it in digital form. But if you're holding it in physical form, once you take possession of it, they really can't track it. They can't. TJ asks, hi Lynette, am I correct in understanding that we see a crash in the economy that results in interest rates back towards zero and massive printing of currency, followed by equally massive hyperinflation? Yeah, that's what I absolutely see. How soon that's going to come? Probably not before the election, going back to that other question. But yes, that's absolutely what I see. Because there's only one, look, if the stock market implodes, or the real estate market implodes, or the car market implodes, these market prices dropping is deflationary. There's only one way to fight deflation, and that's with inflation. And what happens? Well, we're going to get it. So yes, 100%, that's what I see happening. 100%.
Real quick, I just want to answer Johnny Moore. Johnny, we do lives every Tuesday. The next live stream won't be next Tuesday. Or actually, yeah, we'll be on next Tuesday.
Yes, Tuesday.
Excuse me.
Yes, it's
next Tuesday.
Yes.
It's the following Tuesday that we're going to be gone. That should be the week of the 12th. Mm-hmm. That's when we're going to be gone. But we are live every Tuesday, and even the week that we're going to be gone, we are going to post something on Tuesday. So definitely be here for that, Johnny.
Yep.
Hopefully that answers your question there, boss.
Yep.
I think we have one more question. There it is.
Ashton Getta asks, Lynette, I live in California. Is it required for me to pay taxes on precious metals from a coin company from a different state that doesn't tax bullion? The tax laws around the country are all a little different and all a little bit more complicated. Write that down. Let me just kind of verify that, because I do not want to give you misinformation. I know that's something that we pay a lot of attention to. So let me get with Jacqueline, who would have that answer more directly, and I'll bring that back next week. And Maria Schartz asks, where can you store your gold? There are a number of ways. Number one, I believe we have a one sheet with some ideas of where to store your physical metals. Before I became so visible, though, you want to diversify where and how you hold it, right? And so what are you going to need first? Remember, the strategy is built in layers based upon what you need to accomplish, right? So you want things that you're going to need like that. So maybe your cash position, if you do indeed hold some gold backs, that would be part of that piece of it. And your, constitutional fractional money up to ounces, right? So if it's the raw stuff like I'm showing you here, that's also part of your barterable position. And so there's all sorts of hidey holes if you look around where you live. If you have a fireplace, I had a client that removed some bricks right inside the fireplace because she never used the fireplace, and she'd hold it there. Who's even going to think that you have that? When I had the condo, I had a peninsula in the condo that I had a peninsula in the condo that I had like a custom kind of like shelving unit put in. And this one area between the exterior of the wall and the oven was just dead space. So I had the bookcase mimicked, and I would just pull it out, and then I had all sorts of room to store my gold and my silver that was absolutely invisible to anybody else. So now I have to hold it at a private vault. I don't hold it in a bank safe deposit box, but I do hold it in a private vault because I'm so visible, other than the few bits that you see me use here, right? But I can't do what I once did. But then again, when you're thinking about what you're trying to accomplish, having your barterable position, or at least a chunk of your barterable position, closest to you, you can access it like that. And the growth part of your portfolio, well, that doesn't really need to be near you, right? So maybe there's a private vault that's close enough for you to access. I have far too many people that make the choice to hold their gold in a different country. Well, how do you get it if you need it? Right? Oh, it's a little challenging. So you want to think again, and we can help you with that. If you give us a call, you're talking to a strategy specialist. That's all part of the strategy, is where do you hold your gold and how do you diversify that piece? So do we have any more questions?
I actually have a question kind of following up on the storing of your gold. My dad was asking me, if you're in the stream today, Pops, shout out to you, by the way.
Hi,
I didn't see a comment yet.
Dad, I haven't seen you here. If you're
Haven't
out
seen you
there.
comment, Pops. Love you, man. But the question was about safety deposit boxes. So he was asking me, okay, well, why don't I just put my gold in a safety deposit box?
Okay.
That's the
One thing,
question.
I don't want to call you out, but it's a safe deposit box.
Safe deposit box.
Not
Excuse
a
me.
safe deed.
Excuse me. Safe deposit box,
Okay.
which is at your local bank, right?
Right. Because they have bank holidays. Also, I had a little old lady client that lived in California that got a notice after the feds went in, and I don't know why, but they drilled open her safe deposit box to see what was inside of there. And there's some things that you cannot hold legally in there, like cash or bullion, because this is an eagle, so they do not want you holding this or cash in a bank safe deposit box because it's classified as hoarding. Now, if you deposit it in the bank, which means you give it away, you loan it to the bank, then that's classified as savings. Well, there are still, I haven't even talked about this yet, but I went in to see what was happening with Synapse, that fintech company that went out of business, and have those people access their money again. Stay tuned about that. But if I remember correctly, don't hold me to this, I am doing a little short on this, but I think they lost access to it in April or May. I can't remember the exact date. Nope, they still don't have access to it. Nope. So I don't view that as savings. I view that as risking your wealth. But everybody's got to do what they're comfortable. But that's why I don't hold it in a bank safe deposit box, because it is too easy for them to say, nope, you have no access to it.
And yep, this is the last question for the day.
Oh, there's not another one coming up? Okay. 50 lashes with a wet noodle. Okay. ATM asks, is there an algorithm for the best day of the week to buy metals? There might be, but I don't know what that is. I don't really, and to be honest with you, I don't really care, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't care if spot is up, down, flat, sideways, because I am crystal clear on its true valuation and where we are in this trend cycle. And that's what matters the most to me. Not, is it a little bit more, is it a little bit less, because it's severely undervalued, so it doesn't really matter. And with that, again, I want to thank every single one of you for showing up. Let's grow this live. Let's have thousands and thousands and thousands of people at this live. And as soon as, because Adam and Arthur and Chandelier are going to be going, I don't know whether it's this week or next week, but shortly, they're going to figure out where we can set up, because we're still just, we're in our offices, but it's still temporary space. So we can't really set up all the studios yet, but we're going to see if we can set up a little one. And I don't even think, have you guys seen the amphitheater?
Not yet.
You have?
Yeah.
Okay, so Adam has seen it, Arthur has not, and Chandelier has not. So we're gonna be looking at that, because, boy, I'm chomping at the bit to do this in person. And you could give us feedback. You know, would there be some of you guys that would participate in a real in-person live event? Let me know. If you guys don't want it, I don't have to do it, but I want to do it. So hopefully you will too. And make sure that you hit that like button. Make sure that you share. These are usually too long because people get kind of caught up that this is going for an hour, 2 hours, or yes.
Let me do something real quick. Chris, I didn't see your question. I'm sorry if I disappointed you. Let me go back. Okay, let me go back and see if I can answer it, or if you want to answer it again real quick, or ask it again real quickly. Chris Willis, let me see if I can find it, because you know what happens, Chris, is the comments start rolling through, and if there's 50 different questions at one time, I miss one, so I apologize about that. Let me kind of go through. Missed my question about ABC bullion. Okay, let me go through. I missed it.
Is there some way that we could actually even maybe have sort of like another line or a text or something so that the questions don't get mixed in with the comments? I don't know the answer to that. I'm just kind of throwing it out.
Not really. Yeah, no, not really.
Okay.
Chris Willis. Sorry,
But
Chris.
thank you
I don't
for
even
letting us
see it.
know if we missed it.
Yeah, thanks for telling us, Chris. I'm
You
sorry
know,
about that.
maybe after you write it, if you just kind
Chris was
of
disappointed.
highlight it and do a Control-C so that if something like this happens, we can...
Please address my question around ABC bullion. Okay, I found it. Okay, sorry, Chris. Thank you for staying. If you stayed, I apologize. The question that I'm seeing here is what implications, if any, are involved for legitimate trade with ABC bullion given the scandal? I don't know anything about ABC bullion. Do you know anything happening with ABC bullion?
I haven't seen ABC
Okay.
bullion, but I'll find out.
Yes.
Would you write that down for me, please, Arthur? I'll find out, and I will answer that next week. And thank you for asking that question.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm sorry I missed you, Chris. We will. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for staying here. We will get that written down and answered to the best of our abilities.
I mean, I've seen a couple recent scandals where they took IRA money and they never bought the bullion and all of that. That's why I'm sitting here telling you, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. And you should not, I shouldn't say that, because everybody's got to do what they're comfortable doing. But this is part of the reason why I'm not really keen on gold IRAs, because you can't hold it. So even though I 100% know that if you do a gold IRA with Zang Enterprises, we are going to buy the physical bullion and deposit it in the depository. But the bottom line is, I don't care. If you don't hold it, you don't own it, and it can disappear. Even, there are bad actors. I would not want their juju, to be honest with you, because I couldn't look at myself in the mirror, but I'll find out. ABC bullion, that scandal I haven't heard, and I don't remember the name of the gold company that I have recently heard of, where people were giving them money for the gold IRAs, and they weren't buying the gold. They were just taking the money.
Oh, how nice of them.
I'm telling you, if you don't have possession of it, how in the world are you going to know if it's real or if it's not? I'll look at that. So, is there any more questions? Are there any more questions? Okay. Thank you guys all for showing up. And I 100% know that the community that we're building locally and globally, we can make a positive difference together for not just a lot of people, but for generations and generations to come. We have to go back and have sound money. We have to, the public has to have the ability to hold government's toes to the fire. And do we need the Fed? If we have sound money, we don't need the Fed. We don't need them. End the Fed. And until next we meet, please be safe out there. Bye-bye.